This watch looks like it's built for combat. A dive-style rotating bezel, a 24-hour military track sitting inside the dial, day and date, 100 meters of water resistance. On paper, this is a proper tool watch. And in a moment, I'll show you exactly what Casio actually did and didn't do to make that possible. Today we're profiling two JDM versions of the Casio MRW-200H. This one isn't staying in the studio, I'm taking it to a place with real tactical history behind it. A bunker beneath the streets of Liverpool that ran the entire Battle of the Atlantic, home to a unit whose actual job was inventing naval tactics. A watch that calls itself tactical, at the headquarters of Britain's actual wartime tactics unit, that felt worth exploring. First though, what's actually going on under the dial? Inside is Casio's module 5558. A quartz movement rated to within about 30 seconds a month, though in practice these tend to run tighter than that. Nothing exotic here, just Casio quartz doing what it's known for, working reliably for years without complaint. The case is resin rather than steel, which keeps the whole watch under 40 grams, light enough that you genuinely stop noticing it's there. Diameter comes in at 44 to 45 millimeters, with a case thickness of 11 to 12 millimeters, substantial on the wrist without tipping into bulky. The dial layout is properly military in flavour, a 24-hour track nested inside the standard 12-hour markers, a day and date window at 3 o'clock, and a full minute track running around the chapter ring. On paper, that's a lot of information. On the wrist, it never feels crowded. Everything sits exactly where your eye expects it. Wrapping the dial is a dive-style rotating bezel. Worth being precise here, because this is a friction bezel, not a ratcheting one. It turns freely in either direction, rather than clicking one way like you get on a true dive watch. There's enough resistance to stop it drifting on its own, but it's a deliberate trade-off, not an oversight. Water resistance sits at 100 meters, and the crystal is plastic rather than mineral or sapphire. It'll pick up the odd mark over the years, but it isn't going to shatter the way that glass can. The two references are genuinely different watches on the wrist, not just two colours of the same thing. Starting with our first reference. Case, bezel and strap are all black, and the dial follows suit. Black with bold white Arabic numerals right around the full 12-hour track, plus the smaller 24-hour numerals nested just inside them. There's a single red triangle marker at 12 on the bezel, the only real accent colour on the whole watch. The day-date window at 3 o'clock reads black text on white with a white border. This is the version that leans hardest into that military no-nonsense identity. Busy on paper, but genuinely legible, even at a glance. Then there's our second reference. This one changes the whole character of the watch. Instead of numerals, you've got a clean white dial with baton-style hour markers finished in a pale Lume green. No numbers at all on the main dial, just blocks and a triangle at 12. The bezel stays black, which against that white face gives you a much sharper, higher contrast read than the all-black version. The day-date window retains the black text on a white background, but with a black border this time. Put them side by side and you'd be forgiven for not immediately clocking that they're the same module underneath. The 1BJH reads like a proper tool watch built for legibility under pressure. The 7EJH reads cleaner, almost sportier, the kind of dial you'd expect on something twice the price. Same water resistance, same movement, same case dimensions, just two very different personalities depending on which one ends up on your wrist. Here's where the word tactical actually starts to mean something. A few floors beneath where I'm standing, a group of people were quite literally inventing naval tactics in real time, and it's a story worth knowing. This is Western Approaches HQ in the heart of Liverpool. From 1941 to 1945, this reinforced concrete bunker ran the Royal Navy and RAF's entire effort to protect the Atlantic convoys, the supply lines that kept Britain fed and armed. Over 1,000 Atlantic convoys arrived on the Mersey during the war, and this building was the nerve centre coordinating their protection against German U-boats. Nearly 1,000 people staffed this operation, and remarkably, around 80% of them were women, from the Women's Royal Naval Service and the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. Many were teenagers barely out of school, plotting ship positions, decoding signals, and running radio operations that decided the fate of entire convoys. In January 1942, this HQ established something called the Western Approaches Tactical Unit, the WATU. Their job was to outthink the U-boats directly, running war games against simulated attacks, then sending the tactics that worked straight out to convoy escorts fighting in the North Atlantic. Whatever tactical means on the packaging of a wristwatch, it meant something entirely different in this building. Real tactics worked out by people barely in their 20s that genuinely saved lives at sea. One more stop on this story, the actual enemy this entire operation was built to counter, sitting just along the river from here. This is U-534, a genuine German Type 9 U-boat, built in Hamburg and launched in 1942-43. This wasn't a coastal boat. It was designed for long-range Atlantic patrols. Type 9 submarines were built to operate as far as Africa, the Americas, even the Indian Ocean. Her story ends almost to the finish line of the entire war. On the 5th of May 1945, just 2 days before Germany's surrender, U-534 was spotted by an RAF Liberator bomber near the Kattegat between Denmark and Sweden. Depth charges damaged her badly, forced her to the surface, and a second strike finished the job. Of her 52 crew, 49 survived, an unusually high survival rate for a U-boat sinking, and one of the last of the war. She sat on the seabed for almost 50 years until a Danish salvage company raised her in 1993. What they found on board turned into something of a legend. Enigma machine components, torpedoes, Luftwaffe radio equipment, sealed containers, and large quantities of currency. Enough to fuel decades of speculation about a last-ditch escape route or even rumours of hidden Nazi gold. No gold was ever confirmed. The mystery is still part of what draws people here. Mersey Travel bought her after recovery and brought her here to Woodside, where she was cut into 4 sections so visitors can walk past the torpedo room, the crew bunks, the machinery spaces, a level of access very few U-boat wrecks anywhere in the world allow. Standing here with a tactical style watch on your wrist next to a vessel that survived a direct attack, sat hidden for half a century and still hasn't given up all its secrets, it puts Built to Last into a bit of perspective. The MRW-200H isn't pretending to be a piece of military history, but its whole design language, the legibility, the durability, the stripped-back layout borrows directly from tools built for people doing genuinely dangerous work. Back to the watch itself for a moment because the build quality here deserves a closer look. The case back is stainless steel, held on with 4 small screws, a straightforward job if you're comfortable doing your own battery change, and this module typically runs around 3 years in a single cell. The strap is resin as well and it's flared, wider where it meets the case, narrowing towards the clasp. Worth knowing if you ever replace it, because a standard strap at the lug width won't taper the same way. Sourcing a genuine Casio replacement keeps the proportions right. One place this watch doesn't try to overreach is the Lume. It's functional rather than genuinely strong. Enough to make out the hands in low light, not enough to compete with anything built specifically as a proper dive tool. Given everything else this watch gets right, that's a fair compromise rather than a real weakness. So, does the Casio MRW-200H earn the word tactical? In my opinion, it's a definite yes. Between the 2 references, you're getting genuine day-date functionality, 100 meters of war resistance, and a design language pulled straight from real military tool watches, wrapped up in something that's affordable, which you can wear and completely forget about. Standing here today, between a bunker that ran a battle and a submarine that fought in it, it's hard not to see where that design language actually comes from. This isn't a novelty watch borrowing military language for the sake of it. It's an honest, well-built piece drawing on a genuinely serious history. I'll see you in the next one, when we'll take another JDM icon out into the wild.